Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the reviews for Warhammer Combat Patrol issue 69 and issue 70. We have our Goliath rock grinder over 2 screws. So come and join me on the desk and we will have a look through. Right then lovely people, shall we have a look at 69 and 70? I'm really excited for this one. It's the Goliath rock grinder. So let's get the sprue over there. And that sprue with it. Spot those there. File those appropriately. And here we go. Right then. So straight in with the instructions. Give me a second. Let's get all these sorted out. So, instructions. We are building the chassis and cab up first. So, yeah, it's got an open back, so I'm assuming it's also a transport exhaust system. There's a lot of handrails on this. So just be aware of that there's going to be fiddly handrails everywhere, which are potentially going to be super fragile. We also have the axles going in place, and it has a guide picture here to make sure you get it in the right location. We're then using a heavy flamer on a extremely large pintle type mount. So I will seek to see how much of that I can keep movable, actually. Although if there's somebody going to be, yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to be potentially arming it as a weapon, then, although we've got some guy here with a remote control unit, and then we've got some guy here on the stubber. The blades of the drill look like they are stacked. So you get 5 blades per saw, basically, per unit. And that goes on the front dozer type blade, which then goes into or onto the front of the the glue on the hull. Okay, so what it is suggesting here that you align the dozer blade here, the drill dozer blade they're calling it, by making sure that the fittings that you've just put on, while they're still flexible, you align everything up with the hull of the vehicle. Okay, so it looks like our person that operates this heavy flamer here doesn't actually integrate with it by the look of it. Doesn't look like it does. That's what it looks like. That looks like what the remote unit is he's holding. So cool. Groovy. Right. faithful of the Star Children. Though united in their zealotry, the Genestealer cults across the Imperium vary greatly from world to world. So we have some of the different ones here. We have Rusted Claw, Bladed Cog, Pauper Princes and Twisted Helix. We then have another piece of fiction in our Read Red section. This is Fiction 16. Looks like Orcs. Custom job. The Old Ways. Some more background fluff for Orcs in our Read J section. And then we have our Goliath Rock Grinder. Tough enough to withstand the rigours of mining, the Goliath Rock Grinder is a potent and devastating, if somewhat improvised, assault vehicle, capable of shielding its crew from weapons fire as surely as from rockfalls. It is ideal for getting into the heart of the action and crushing foes under its drill dozer blade. So you have a background table here, D6 rolling chart background table. You then have your tick sheet here for build, paint, play. And then you have the data sheet. So it has a 12-inch movement, it's toughness 10, 3 up save, 10 wounds, 7+ leadership and a 3 objective control. Its ranged weapons are Clearance Incinerator, ignores cover and torrent. It's 12 inches, 2d6 for attacks. It's a flamer, so there's no ballistic skill, so they're auto hits. Strength 6. Armour piercing value is -1 and it's 1 damage. Demolition charge cash. Assault blast hazardous 6-inch range, d6 +3. Ballistic skill is 5+. It's strength 12 -2 AP and 2 damage. And then heavy stubber is 36 inches. Rapid fire 3. 3 attacks. 4+ ballistic skill, strength 4, 0 AP and 1 damage. And then melee weapons is the drill dozer blade, sustained hits 1, 6 attacks, weapon skill is 3+, strength 10, AP is -2 and 2 damage. Damaged, 1 to 3 wounds remaining. While this model has 1 to 3 wounds remaining, each time this model makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. There you go. Right, we then have campaign, Genestealer cults versus Orcs. The Genestealer cults will always respond aggressively to any disruption of their carefully orchestrated plans, and few things in the galaxy cause more chaos than the arrival of a rambunctious horde of Orcs. You are going to be using the Clash of Patrols scenario, and you deploy your forces deploy on across the long table edges, and you have a 4 objective markers in the shape of a cross in the centre. Genestealer cults. The Genestealer cults are rising, but their numbers and positions are still mostly unknown to the Imperial oppressors. A patrol of Orcs blunders into the way of their revolution. I wonder if they printed pamphlets. And the cult operatives are forced into open battle. The quicker they can destroy the Orcs, the less time the Imperium will have to gather intelligence on their location strategies, armaments. On their location strategies and armaments. The clock is ticking and the stakes are high. Orcs. In a sprawling industrial state settlement, the Orcs have discovered an unexpected bounty of squishy soldiers and things that go boom. They cheerfully send out a force to investigate by kicking, crumping and shooting stuff until they can work out how hard it is. Things are looking promising and the locals are putting up a great fight. If they can find success here, more patrols will arrive to get a piece of the action. There's your victory conditions. We have campaign, Genestealer cults versus Leagues of Votann. The Genestealer cults are deeply protective of their territory, and in return the Leagues of Votann see the cults as akin to contamination in an area to be exploited. When these two sides meet, there can only be war. So we're using the display of might scenario, and you will deploy across the short board edges, and there is a larger cross of 4 objective markers in across the centre of the board. Genestealer cults. The Genestealer cults became aware of the presence of the Leagues of Votann in their territory. this is a critical time for their uprising and they cannot afford distractions. A patrol is sent out to deliver a decisive blow to the forces of the kin and repel them from the area. If the victory can be sure enough, there is hope that the leagues will deem the area unprofitable and move on elsewhere, leaving the cults to their plans. The leagues of Votan continue probing areas to be exploited and come across a resource area that is heavily infiltrated by the cults. Aware of the possibility of resistance, should they start mining in Genestealer territory, a patrol is sent out to send a message to the cults. If they stand in the way of the leagues and their mining operation, there will be no compromises and destruction will surely follow. So there you go, and there's your victory conditions. Combat Patrol is just the beginning. So yeah, issue 70 we've got, which is the second half of the Rock Grinder, but in 71 we get our first Astra Militarum unit, which is the Cadian Command Squad. Good grief, that Vox unit looks derpy. Okay, alright, don't be distracted. Right, how to paint. So we are painting our Rock Grinder, and they've done it in several different sub-assemblies, which is probably what I'm going to do. Very similar, I would expect. So that looks like they're coming in with a base coat or a primer of black, and then everything is getting, well, the vehicle is getting Administratum Grey, and then everything on the vehicle gets Agrax Earthshade. And then you're going to dry brush Administratum Grey and then Pallid Witch Flesh over the vehicle. And then coming in, painting your figures, painting your details, painting the railings. Although I would expect the railings to be painted either a bright yellow for safety or the same colour as the vehicle. And yeah, cool, excellent. And there's a work in progress there. Okay, so that's your work in progress shot. Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor, founded by the Trist dynasty of Gossar Quintus. The cult of the Four-Armed Emperor has since grown to become a terrifying hidden enemy that has spread across half the galaxy. The cult has tendrils of shadowy influence buried deep in many Imperial worlds and remains an ever-present existential threat to humanity. So there you go. So talking about that, expert underminers, suffer not the alien to live. Gossar Quintus, so some background fluff on the planet there. Ortan Cassius led a daring assault upon the infested world of Gossar Quintus. Ortan Cassius, I believe, is the leader of Kill Team Cassius that I don't think you can get any more on the Games Workshop website, which is a shame. Curse of Unreason, Mysterious Disappearances, Death Watch Investigation, A Terrifying Legacy. Right, Hand of the Magus, Combat Patrol Genestealer Cults info. And there's just some finished models here, and they look fabulous. Scenario 43, Grindall Opposition. To play Grindall Opposition, set up your battlefield as shown below and then follow the deployment instructions. The game ends when the Genestealer Cults models are destroyed or when each wave has been destroyed. The final score is indicated on the scoring track. The scoring track and the stage table are on the next page. They will be needed regularly, so keep them to hand. How to play. Each time an opposition unit is destroyed, the Genestealer Cults player advances to the next stage. Moving further along the scoring track on the next page. When the game ends, the final score is indicated by the highest stage that the game advanced to. So you have a rock grinder Goliath. You're using battle mat number 3. Opposition deployment is across one short table edge, and the rock grinder is going to start in the intersection between the first set of folds here and the next set of folds. Deployment. The Genestealer cult places their rock Goliath in the location shown, then places 1 unit of 10 neophyte hybrids within 6 inches of the Goliath rock grinder. The opposition player consults the table on the next page and places the stage 1 models in the opposition deployment zone. Then players take it in turns to place 2 terrain features on the battlefield. Finally, the opposition player makes the first turn in this scenario. So, stage 1 enemy, 3 Hearthkin warriors. 2 is 2 Einhir Hearthguard. 3 is a Carl. 4 is 3 Orc boys. 5 is 2 Death Copters. 6 is 1 Boom Dacker Snazwagon. 7 is 3 Infernus Marines. 8 is 2 Terminators. 9 is a Chaplain on bike. And 10 is a Captain in Terminator armour. And these are your stage tracker. So you could probably photograph this so that you can tick them off. I'd rather, rather than ruin the page by writing on it, I'd rather either just draw out a tracker myself to use, or photograph this, or scan it in if you've got a scanner on your PC and print it out. So tutorials, damaged vehicle, deadly demise reminder, and then your victory conditions. And then issue 72 we get White Scar and Aerial Yellow. Right, let's have a look at the plastic. Let's have a look at this frame first, since we're going to be building up the body of the vehicle first and then added on the details. So this is a sculpt date of 2016. We've got our 2 sides, our top, our chassis floor, along with the troop carrying area. This seems to be the front of the body. Here's our rock grinder dozer blade. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, do you know what? Let's see how this goes together. Hopefully it'll go together really well. Certainly I'm hoping that we won't have some of the issues that we often see on things like predators or rhinos or land raiders. So that's the first sprue. Here's our second sprue. So we actually get 3 guys standing up, but we've only had instructions for 2, which is 1 using that control joystick, and then the guy manning the pintle mount for the heavy stubber. But yeah, we get 4 figures with this, 2 for the vehicle, and I don't know, are these just 2 extra guys? I mean, that's great if they are. I've got plenty of spare 25mm bases, so I can base them and add them to units of neophyte hybrids if that's the case. If I'm allowed to do that within the rules, I'll have to look up the unit composition size for neophyte hybrids. Otherwise, we just seem to have random 2 random pieces. Right, hang on a sec. Oh no, there it is. There's the heavy flamer body. There's the control pad that this guy's going to be holding. Okay, so that looks like the front of the heavy flamer there, and it looks like, so we've got the heavy stubber, and it looks like we've got some sort of autocannon here. possibly a twin-linked autocannon, which I'm assuming might be a weapon variation for this particular weapon. I'm going to have to see if I can drag up some destructions from the internet and see what they say. But yeah, that's cool. Let's go to the hobby desk and we will get this started. Hey lovely sexy hobby people, apologies for interrupting your video, but it is for a good cause. On the 21st of June this year, 2026, I will be doing the British Heart Foundation charity cycle ride, London to Brighton. It's 54 miles down from Clapham Common to the seafront in Brighton, and I've chosen to raise money for the British Heart Foundation. I don't think that it is a stretch to say that the majority of us have in some form come across or know somebody who has some kind of heart issue. Over the years, I've known people that have had heart murmurs, have had stents put in, hole in the heart babies, as well as my own grandfather, paternal grandfather, suffering a heart attack. And sadly, being a responder to a driver who had come off the road after suffering a fatal heart attack. So it's one of the number one health issues, or one of the top health issues in the UK. The work the BHF does, not just in research but in awareness, is, I think, vital, and I really would love you, if you're able, to make a small donation to the fundraiser. I will put a link in the description below, so that I can smash, hopefully, the £350 target which is set by the British Heart Foundation. As I say, if you're able, it would be really nice. It doesn't have to be much, but I would really appreciate it. As I say, I'll put a link in the description below to the fundraising page on Just Giving, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care. Bye-bye. Hey, let's start building our Goliath rock grinder, shall we? Right, the first thing we're going to do is just glue these wheels together. They come in halves. You just push them together. Just make sure you've got the place where you're going to put the axle stub and then the wheel hub, which is going to obviously face the outside. Just push them together and then just add your glue. Don't overload the area because the zigzags make it difficult for the glue to flow. And to be quite honest, I have done probably on all these wheels, I've probably just touched it and to some different areas. I haven't gone all the way around. And that should be sufficient to glue it. Right, your next thing. So you're going to want the chassis plate. And then you're going to want one side. And this is going to, just trying to orient that correctly. Right, that is going to orient around that way. And this is going to, if you match it up from the bottom, you've got two tabs that are going to sit in a recess here. So grab your glue, then on the top part you've got that again here. So Then what I'm going to do is where the seam line is there, I'm going to add the glue in. And then where the seam line is here, and that should make it nice and sturdy. It then says to add, where's it gone? Is it this bit? It is this bit. Right, it then says to add this bit, and you have this here, and what you need to do is add in this bulkhead, and does that need to be there? Need a knife. Personally, I think it's going to be easier to glue these two bits together, making sure they're aligned, like so. And then add to here. Okay, just making sure that you get everything lined up. Like so, and this is what you have. And I find, because originally what it said was glue this piece to the side, and that would have just left it hanging with no support. So glue this bulkhead on to the top of the vehicle cab, and then glue it in place, and that gives you support. And then you can add in this, which is the other side of the vehicle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crack that a little bit so that when I add the glue, it's going to move along easier. Like thus. And then just add the glue into these tabs here. Okay. Right. So, and this is what we have. This is the basic outline shape of what we have. We then have this piece is going to go in just here, like so. And just along the bottom there. Like so, just to make sure it's in. And then this piece here in the same way. And then we have the tail going on there, like so. And then just push that home. Okay, looks like we're just going to have to press that in until it has taken. Like that. We then have this tread plate going on. Like thus. We then have the front of the cab going on here like so, and just take a little bit of time to align this and then just work your way around the seam. Like thus. Okay. And then just do the same with the seams on the bottom here. Okay. Now, so just using the plastic weld to tidy up the weld seams. And this is where we are at this moment in time. We do have this top cover. Now, that top cover does go on at some point. However, and this is what I'm going to say, I don't know if this top cover is a permanent fitting. Or whether having it off allows you to have this as a troop transport. So what I'm going to do is probably not glue this. I'll probably glue all the railings on, and we'll see how easy it is to take on and off. But if I can leave this as loose, so that if needs be I can convert it to a troop transport, then that's what I'm going to do, to just give me a bit of flexibility in my vehicles. Okay, so that's where we are up to at the moment. Right then, let's carry on with our rock grinder build. So we got this far previously. Now I have some towing or lifting eyes that need to go on. I've put 2 in because you don't want to see me do it, but we've got some which have a slight angled lip which go in at the front, and then you have a couple that aren't, and they go in just a bit further back on the body. Let's just push that in. Where's the tweezers? Let's get that pushed in like so. So that'll sit in there, and then the other one just sits in there. Like so. We then still have some panels that need to go on. What did I do with it? That's all. There it is. So we have a vision slit which goes on the front just there. Like so. And then we have this one which goes there. So there you go. Now we have this partial hatch cover which goes on, and that goes on like so, and it's studded on the underneath, which marries up with a load of tiny little holes. So that's that. And then we have this hatch cover which goes on there, and I mean in the closed position it's like that, and I would have thought it's hinged, but it seems like they slide it back on this occasion. So let's just do that, and hopefully that will be enough, like so. Now, a couple of handrails on this side. We've got a handrail that's going to go in there, and that is this one. So what I'm going to do is just do that and then marry it up, and oops, so, and then tweezers, just make sure it gets pushed into place properly. Like that. Now, I do have some brackets that go in there, but I'm not going to put those in yet. But we do have the axle stubs, and these, if you look, you can either place it like that or like that. If you place it lower down, that's incorrect. So it goes into position in the highest position possible. So like that, and we have this so far. Now we then have this grab rail going in across the top there, and just going to do that, and then do this. Whoops. Get it aligned. Make sure it's squared off. We then have a load of railings around this upper deck platform. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do 1, 2 for that first railing, and then 1, 2 for the second railing, and you need to get this around the right way. So there's tiny little holes in the railing there on one side, and that side needs to marry up with this railing so that when you push it together, there's tiny little pins on the end, and they will marry up precisely. Like so. Now, we then have a final rail, which is going to go in there. I'm just going to add in pop a tiny little bit of glue in there, and then it's a backwards F to push into railings like that. I'm just going to add in a tiny little bit more glue just to make sure it's done. So that's that. Now, the back, if you want it as a troop transport, then this ladder would ordinarily go on here, like so. But because they're doing it as the Goliath rock grinder, we have this deck going on. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, do you know what? This looks like it could be removable, so I'm going to play around with it. So the next thing we're going to do is, this has some railings. So we've got a couple of railings here, and I'm going to do these in that way, like so. Now, if you end up pushing them through, like I've just done, just take your tweezers and push them back through like that. Okay, and then just level it off again. And then the same on this side. 1, 2, and 3. Like this. Okay. We then have this little thing which goes here. And that is actually a cover for something over the back, kind of cab entry. So this is what this looks like, and this will go in here like that. Now I'm thinking I could leave that off and just have the tailgate like that, and then you can lower the tailgate. I'm actually thinking of having the tailgate lowered, and from there I will add in, so I'm going to need to be a little bit quick on this. So that goes in there like that, and then you have these pieces, and I need to get these around the right way. So that's the first one. So glue in there, and then you've got a little pin sticking out which is going to hook into a little recess, and then that is going to sit on the tailgate. So get that married up like so. So it's number 1, and it's exactly the same with number 2. Just put the glue in there, come on, and then down to the tailgate, and then just add your glue, and then adjust like that, and then that's the tailgate. And then this way I can, if I want to use it as transport, I can literally just take that off. This is supposed to go on the back side when the this thingy is on, but what I might do is just pop it there, glue it in place, glue it in place, like that, and then once it's dry I'm going to snip it just above the pins. Right, so that's pretty much where we are with this for the time being. Now we have an exhaust which comes in 2 parts. Just marry up the parts and add your glue. So 1, whoops, and 2. This then attaches Get it the right way around. And I think it goes there, like that. So there's actually like a tab here. So what I would suggest you do is you've got a recess on the exhaust system, add your glue, and just push it in place like that, and then do that. Exhaust system in place. Just get the nips. So 1, 2, and I'm hoping that we get enough clearance to just pop that on, so that we can do both versions. So yeah, cool. Now on the front we have these, which are going to be the dozer blade attachments. Like so. Then we have this equipment locker that, do you know what, I'm going to use the tiny little door, the rolled up door. So that's going to go into position across the top of the equipment locker like that. Okay. And we're just going to put it in place like so. Cool. Now then, we have a fuel tank that needs to be assembled. And this starts with the underpiece here, and then these two side pieces. Make sure you get them correct so that they marry up correctly. Okay, they are tabbed, so hopefully you won't get them the wrong way round. So 1, 2, and then you have this bit which is going to go on the front, so just do that and then just marry that up like so. You just pinch it together slightly with your side panels and then add in your glue. And then finally, top of the tank just goes in and done. Job's a good one. This then pushes into the side of your vehicle like so. So what I'm going to do is add in glue along the top like that, and then from the underneath, because it just wraps around ever so slightly, I will just add some glue in there. So this is kind of where we're up to at the moment. When you come to put the wheels on, they will just slot on like so, and be in position like that. But this is where we're up to. I need to just get stuff prepped for the next stage. So come back and we'll get that done. Let's build this industrial flamer, shall we? So this is made up of a number of sub-assemblies. And I'm going to start off by doing the flamer head itself. And essentially you've got the main body of the flamer head. So just make sure that when you glue it, you make sure that it's glued in a way where it's squared off, okay? And then we have the nozzles that go in, and they simply go in like so. So that's that sub-assembly. Then I'm going to start with the traversing arm, and that starts off with 2 halves. So I am going to start off by gluing that section together there, and then I shall just splay it slightly so that I can then just drop the glue in, and it should work its way round by capillary action. Like that. And then the head, the flamer head, will go on. Now this is grooved underneath, and it should sit onto a slight protrusion which comes out the front. So once that's in place, let's just tilt that slightly, and then I'm going to add the glue like so, just push it back. So that's how I did that. Then we have some pistons. Now these situate in this hole here, and then there's a flat space there, so they're not pinned on both ends, which I think is a misstep. It would have been nice if there was pins for both ends, because then you could seat this nice and easy. Like so, but that wasn't too bad. And then the second one, so just like that, and then in there, and then in there, like so. And then you have these 2 pieces which locate, and these are square pins into a square hole, and they should just locate like so. And then once that's done, you will glue that on there like that. So glue 1, and then glue 2 like that. make sure that they are as even as possible, and then what I'm going to do is, because these have recessed slots, I shall put the glue into those slots and then marry up the flamer mount that way. Just like that, and there you go. That's your flamer mount. Whoops. Let's just round that off. So that's that. Now this is officially, where's it gone? So this is officially supposed to glue to this, okay? And then what happens is this would then go into the body of the thing, and it would obviously, you'd be able to turn it. I'm not overly impressed with that. Come on, come back out. It's better. But here's the thing. I want to be able... Whoops, I've pushed that down again. Right, let's just push that up again. Right, I want to be able to swap this out, and I can't do that if I've got this, because this weapon platform, this turntable, also acts as the base for the other weapon system. So I need to have a think about how I am going to proceed with that so that I can swap it out. But we'll wait and see. We're going to make the operator for that weapon system, and that is this guy. So we literally got his torso going on. And then his arms are officially pinned. So in theory, you know, you shouldn't mess it up getting the right orientation. So one there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this really quick, because what I want to do is put the arms into position. As I was saying, what I want to do is make sure that this goes on and I get the ability to angle it correctly. On the railings. And that the operator actually is standing in an upright position. So putting the joysticks into their respective slots, there you go. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this onto the railing, because it actually sits on the railing. And then just make sure that the pilot, the operator, is standing upright, and I'm just going to let that sit there now and dry. What I will do, because it shouldn't interfere with the actual positioning, is drop this guy's head in like so, just like that. Right, so that's that guy done. Let's just put that aside and let that dry. We then have our vehicle commander, I suppose you would call him. And this guy, let's make some space, doesn't have the bottom of his legs, which is fine, we don't mind that. But what we have is, again, we're going to glue the torso into position. Like so. And then the arms, and again these are pinned, so they should only go one way. Once you've orientated them, they should sit in there, and then that should be it for the pins. The trick is not to flood the area too much with the glue. And then just make sure that they are level. I'm going to stick the head in. Like so. Now we have a weapon, and this is kind of pintle mounted, but we'll come to that. Okay. Now I can't accurately determine which way round this goes. There is a difference. I'm just having a look at this. I wonder if it's like that. Maybe. I'm not 100% certain. But we have an ammo box that will go on there. Make sure you orientate it correctly. Okay. So that will go on. Whoops. Come back. Go on there. Like so. Okay, so there's your ammo box, and then we have this, I don't know what it is actually, whether it's a power supply or cooling system or what, but this is, there's a little tab on the side, there's a little hole there at the base, and then there's a little hole in the upper part of the receiver, and that's where that is going to go. So that's going to go in there, and then there's a tiny little dimple that the cable is going to sit into. Okay, so that goes on, and that is the stubber. So what we then have is these two pieces will slot into fitted bits just there, like so. And I'm just pinching the arms together, and then I'm just going to add in the glue like that. And then what happens is we've got this piece. Now, this will sit on the, there's a bar, let's take half, I think you can see it should be dry. So on the front we've got a bar, and this is the rest for the stubber, and there's a pin that goes into it, and okay, that's fine. So do you know what? I'm actually going to just check the alignment of that again. That's fine. I'm actually going to glue this to the bar like that. And then just check that alignment. That's all good. So our crew figures will kind of look like this on the miniature. Okay, and then this will go in there. I haven't glued the swivel on yet, but yeah, there you go. Right, that's where we're up to. Okay, so the mining plough. Starting off with these big rock grinding multi-disc things on the front here. I've assembled two. I've already glued one in, but when you assemble it, you just need to make sure that you get, so it's these ones that are upright have a slot in each end, and you need to make sure that those are both orientated the right way, because that's going to slot in like so. And the way I'm going to do this is just balance it like that, and then just add the glue like so, and then just push it home. There's also 5 of these mini grinders. Now I've already glued in 4 of them, because you don't really need to see me like glue 5 in. But with these, I used a pair of tweezers, simply because they are an absolute bugger to orientate and then use your fingers to get in the right position, and then just slot in the thing like so. So just slot it in and then just make sure it's pushed home. Now this is the one which is horizontal, and you need to make sure that you stack it up correctly. So with this one, because this is going against a flat plate at the back, you've got 2 tabs here, and then at the back side of the mining blades here, it's actually flat to go up against the back of the blade. So all I do is just literally make sure I've orientated it correctly, add the glue in, go to the next piece, make sure I've got the right pieces at the back, and then again add the glue, and then the next piece, again making sure I've got the right pieces at the back, and then the final piece, making sure the tab is facing the back, and then glue it, and then this will slot in, and the 2 tabs should go through the tab holes at the back here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some glue there and glue there, and then I'm just going to add some glue down each side where it's pushed up against the side of the dozer blade, and that should anchor it in place. So the next thing we have is this bracket. Now this bracket, when it's in position on the dozer blade, will actually sit there when you glue it to the front of the vehicle. So it will sit there, and we've put these brackets on previously, but this, make sure it's orientated correctly and then pushed up into position. Okay, like that. Now you then have a light cluster, and that attaches to the back of the dozer blade. In that position, you've got 2 holes there, which are going to take these 2 pegs on there, and then you've got 2 slots that take the other 2 pieces of the light assembly. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add glue into all of these little pieces, and then I'm going to add the light assembly like so, and make sure that it's upright. So the front of your drill blade is currently going to look like this. Okay. Now, here's the awkward bit, because you need to push this to the front like so and hold it in position. Then what you need to do is you've got these two arms, and what happens is these two arms will attach. There's a pin on the end of the arm and it attaches into the hole on the end there, and you're going to need to glue it into position, but not actually glue it in position on the vehicle. So that what you're going to do is you're just going to push it into position like so, and then allow it to dry, so that when you come to paint it, it's a sub-assembly. Okay, so it's probably going to be easier to do this actually, if you think about it. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to marry it up and push that into position, hold it into position, and then push these down, and then just let that go off. Okay, so that when you've painted this and come to glue it onto your Mini, these are in the right position. And the reason I'm doing it this way around instead of gluing this end and then pushing the pins on is because I want the bigger area so that I can just scrape off a little bit of paint. So because I'll super glue it, so scrape off a little bit of paint on the contact points, and that will give me better adhesion. So the bigger, flatter surface works out better. So I'm just going to lay that down there and let it go off. Totally and utterly forgot to put this sledgehammer on the side of this vehicle like that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that, and then I have two grab handles that I need to clip out and put onto the side. So now that I've positioned that, let's clip out the grab handles. I shall do that. And the two grab handles that need to go in here are ready. So first one, and then second pair. So 1 and 2. There you go. Right, so that's pretty much it for the build. I have built the heavy stubbers, which I can put on there. But like I said, we've got the pivot plate, and these heavy stubbers would glue in like that. What I might look at is trying to figure out maybe a magnetized system, because these are recessed, so I might be able to like just glue some square magnets in there and then just have this sort of like facing forward so that I can just swap it out as and when I change over the particular use of the vehicle. So yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll have a look, see what I can figure out, and we'll take it from there. But I'll do the turntable shot. I'll be using plenty of blue tack to just hold this together for the turntable shot, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care. Bye bye.